So good morning, I'm Patrick O'Hearn, and today I'll be talking about GraphQL and comparing it to REST and giving some pros and cons. So let's talk about the history of GraphQL. It was originally developed by Facebook in 2012. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. It's open source data query and manipulation. It was finally publicly released in 2015. One of the benefits of it is it's type specific. So if the types aren't correct with the request, the call won't be made, which saves some data. This is just some GIFs of how GraphQL works. And you can see it's very user-friendly. As you change the query, the response changes as well. You structure the data the way you want it. So it's very user-friendly, developer-friendly. So why did Facebook need GraphQL? The answer is the iPhone. They gambled a lot on HTTP5, and it is not where they thought it was going to be. So they had to develop a native mobile app for Android and iOS. And that was the main catalyst for creating GraphQL. So I'm going to give an example of data fetching with REST versus GraphQL. So in order to make API calls with REST, if you wanted to get like the user ID, their posts, and their followers, you would make 3 separate API calls, which each one of those consumes data, and you can also receive stuff you don't necessarily need, so you can overfetch. And then using GraphQL, you specify exactly what you want, and you are returned exactly what you want, nothing more, nothing less. So that you cut out on overfetching. So some of the benefits of GraphQL helps provide a mobile-first user experience. Since mobile apps have rich UIs and are used over slow networks, GraphQL helps to load only the relevant data without killing the developer experience. Helps handle a complex schema. Since modern UI applications are more and more complex, using data far away from the REST CRUD-based API, GraphQL allows you to combine data from different sources. GraphQL, especially when you're using Apollo server, provides many features to hide backend complexity from the clients. And then it just gives you a better developer experience. So some of the cons of GraphQL. Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's the best. So GraphQL is kind of, obviously now it's 5 years later, but when it came out in 2015, everybody thought it was really cool. And I still think it is really cool, but doesn't necessarily mean it's just the best. It won't magically solve your performance issues just out of the box. There's still a lot of stuff you need to do to enhance it. GraphQL is not equal to REST, and GraphQL is not going to do away with REST. They're two very different things and deserve their place in their web technology worlds. Let's see. Also, there's one of the big cons is caching with GraphQL. It's a lot more complicated to implement a simplified cache with GraphQL than it is to implement it in REST APIs. And also it's hard to rate limit it. In terms of an API, you can specify how many times that endpoint can be hit a day, but with GraphQL, it's a lot harder to manage that. Key differences between GraphQL and REST. GraphQL is a language and technology. REST is an architectural pattern. So they're not the same. They do similar things, but in different ways. And here are my resources.